Go ahead.
Test. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
Okay.
8,
share.
9,
Okay.
10.
Anyway, it was a steady day, you know. Got off to a nice start. I wish I would have led at the very beginning. I thought I was going to, but I think that what that
4,
first
5, 6, 7.
practicing counting, cool. So it was nice to lead at later on in the race, just to have done that, to lead laps, but it was steady. I mean, I spent most of the day half throttle running behind people. So when you get in that line, that nice outside line where it's just single file, I didn't feel like it was a wise idea to drop low and try and figure out how to pass. You were probably going to find yourself much further back. So I suppose that's the only downside to running in that front group all day, was that I never got any practice passing. I never tried really anything. The only thing we really did was on those starts, the inside line had a lot of momentum for the first couple of laps. So, that was kind of the most action that happened until the very end there. Once that inside line at the end of the race had dedicated followers, it was strong. But once Jimmy got in the outside line, I think it showed, that he was fast. And so congrats to Jimmy. It was nice to get a Chevy to win the race. Overall steady day for me. Nice day for GoDaddy. And the crew did a nice job in the pits. So really not, nothing super duper eventful. I would imagine that pretty much anyone would kick themselves and say, what coulda, shoulda I done to give myself that opportunity to win. And I think that was, that's what I was feeling today, was a uncertainty as to how I was going to accomplish that. I mean, there was plenty of time while we were cruising along nose to tail I came on my radio and I was talking to Tony and my spotter Brandon about, what do you see people doing, what's working, what's not. And I was thinking in the car, how am I going to do this? And it just, I didn't know what to do exactly. So I feel like, maybe that's just, my inexperience. Maybe that's me not thinking hard enough. I don't know, getting creative enough. I'm not sure.
After such a great run here, you got to be excited going to Phoenix.
Yeah, it was nice to run like we did at the end of the year last year with Texas and especially with Phoenix. So I feel like it will give us a good baseline idea of how we need to set the car up. But it is also a new car, so we'll have to adapt to that. And Tony and I are still figuring out, how we get the most out of me with new tires in a qualifying situation and things like that. So we still have a lot of stuff to work on. But it was nice to have that race in Phoenix at the end of last year. And I think that while it might not just be so much about Phoenix, I think it's about Tony Gibson and everybody that works around him.
Do you now reset your expectations for what you might be able to accomplish as a rookie this year?
No. I think that would be unwise to sort of start telling myself that top tens is where we need to be every weekend. I think that's setting up for failure. The list of drivers in the Cup Series is deep, and this is a unique track. These speedways are different and unique, and a lot about the car. You have to be smart enough to do the right thing at the right time, but it's very much about the car. So, I feel like I'm still sticking to, let's just see how these first 5 races go, where we go to a bunch of different kinds of tracks and see where we settle in, start to establish goals from there on out. But the only thing we can really go off of is at the end of last year and kind of running solid inside of that top 20 and hopefully get inside the top 15. I think that's really all I can think right now, and that could change after five races. It might be worse. It might be much better. I don't know, but we're just going to kind of pick up where we left off.
Jeff Gluck from USA Today. Danica, by the time you got to your car before the race, it seemed like the national anthem was starting and you had to hop in right away. I could be wrong, but was that at all difficult? The lack of time that you had to unwind from everything, then just get right in?
I feel like when there are pressure situations and tensions are high, I don't get too flustered, and I seem to be okay with them. So, I was walking while the invocation was going on, and by the time I got to the car, we did the anthem, and there was a list of photos with people that we were meant to get, and I didn't do any. So I just got in the car. As soon as the anthem's done, I get in the car. Everything else has to take a back seat because that's what I'm there to do is drive.
What was it like leading the field to the pole? Did you was there any time to just kind of, like look around or kind of absorb the moment?
There was quite a few people out there when we walked out for intros. I thought that was a hefty amount of people. That was pretty cool. You definitely got the feeling like you were in a sea of people. So hopefully the fans enjoyed that. That's access to us that no other sport really gets that. I mean, the fans can really get to us, and I hope they appreciate that. So, and to be on the quote on the field, it's got that's a cool thing for the fans to be able to do. But I got a feeling there. Once you're out in the car, I mean, I've been in these situations before, and I felt really calm, like leading the field to the green. The front was the calmest place to be. So I thought that as anything would go, I'm sure there were people behind me that were more nervous because up front is nice on these speedways.
The owner of Red Bull has offered you, if you finish in the top 10 at the Daytona 500, he's offered you a chance to test a Formula One car. Is that something you'd ever be interested in, just as a test, maybe just as a demonstration, not anything serious?
I mean, I didn't hear about that. That's nice. I have been in that situation before where someone has offered for me to test the car. It was a long time ago, quite a few years ago, and I think it was maybe where did they test them? In South Africa or something in the winter. And anyway, for me, if I'm not serious about driving a Formula One car, I'm not a car geek. I don't feel like I have to drive a Formula One to make my life complete. So unless it was something that I was serious about doing, I have, my schedule is rather full anyway, and then it just opens you up for criticism. If it doesn't go well, then what are people going to say? That's something that I don't like to put myself in. So, but it's a very kind offer.
Let's go over to Brant. Go ahead, Brant.
For Danica, Brant James, ESPNW.com. Just like as you became the first female to lead laps at Indy, you did here. I know you don't like to think of your career in gender terms, but I was hoping you could describe, what that means to you.
It's just, honestly, when I say that I wanted to lead at some point, it was just because I was disappointed that I didn't do it off the bat like I thought I should have. So it didn't really have to do with being a girl and leading. I think a stat that I found more interesting was that only 13 people, including me now, have led Indy and Daytona. So I thought that was a much cooler stat for me. So I'm honored, but again, these are things that just happen along the way, and I hope to on the quest to be the best driver and to run up front and get to victory lane. These things happen, and I'm proud, but they're not the ultimate goal.
Let's go back to the press box for a question, then we'll come back to Holly Kane. Go ahead, press box.
Hi, Danica. Michael Vega, Boston Globe. Just curious, right before the start of the race, as you're making your way through the crowd and trying to fight your way to get to your car, I think Tony found you and drew you close to say something. What words did he impart on you, and what kind of calming effect did that have for you?
Well, he grabbed me first, and I was about ready to unleash on someone, so that happened first. But, he just said, block all this out, you go do it, it's your time now, focus, and you'll do a great job. So, I'd love to be able to talk to somebody like Tony Stewart and just get the rundown on how it's going to go, but you have to experience it for yourself, and you have to... for me, I also then have to have experiences to ask and figure out how to do them better next time. It's not so easy as to just kind of talk to Tony and get the scope of it. So, but he was. What he said was simple but calming, and it probably was what also drove me to just as soon as the anthem was over with to get in the car. People are trying to make decisions around me about you going to do it or you're not going to do it, and I'm putting my earpieces in and head sock on. If you want a picture like that with my back to you, fine, but I'm getting in the car because it's time to work.
Let's go now to Holly Kane downstairs.
Holly Kane, NASCAR.com. Sorry, Dale, I have a question for Danica as well. Danica, I think when you won the pole, there was a little bit of, she won the pole, she has a fast car, but how is she going to race when it comes down to it? Do you feel like in the bigger picture what you were able to do today perhaps showed and won some respect from the Sprint Cup guys that you haven't raced a ton with quite yet?
I again, I think that that's a question better to those guys, better to guys like Dale and everyone else that I was around all day. I feel like, they would be able to answer that question for you. But I think it was better to have run up in the top 10 all day today. Than the pole was wonderful, and Tony Gibson and those guys are the ones that should be really proud of that one, and I know they are. But today, being able to stay up front and get to the lead at one point and just run up in the top 10, for me, that was more of an accomplishment. The guy on my team, Jay, was joking around before qualifying. He said, "These 2 days are about us. Next week's about you." And he's joking around, but he's right. He's right. It's about the potential of the car, Hendrick engines and chassis. And having that pub for GoDaddy all week. I'd heard that it's like winning the 4th biggest race, qualifying on the pole for the Daytona 500, because there's a whole week of media. So that was for them, and today is a day that I can look at and be happy for certain things and learn from others.
We're going to take a couple more. We got, looks like Doug has one right here.
Doug Turnbull, WSB Radio in Atlanta. Danica, this is for you. A couple times on pit road with that first pit stall, it was tough getting out of the pits. I think there's maybe some wheel spin and a couple times getting past. Can you talk a little bit about the idiosyncrasies of pit road and adjusting to that for NASCAR?
I don't necessarily know how, first pit box is the one that you take when you are qualified on the pole. I mean, that's just what you do. So, but it was definitely different pulling out because everyone has momentum next to you, and so I mean, I think it's a benefit under yellow because you're just crossing the line. But after that, the momentum takes over. So, it was different. I mean, I definitely felt like I had a lot of wheel spin. So I don't know if that has to do with the fact that there's no rubber in front of me, really, being in that first pit stall or not. But I'm sure that there's a great reason why you always fall into that first pit stall. So it was nice to be there all day. It wasn't until the very end with the 9 that I had to worry about anyone pulling in the pit box behind me. So we earned that, and it's nice to have it.